because one of the things that we know we've not been doing, even though it was a long HGM tradition, is to have those face-to-face meetings that are quite important. So anyway, here we are for AGM. Thank you very, very much, those of you who've made it. We appreciate that it is a delightful, warm, sunny evening, and it's good that you're here for as long as you can be. Good. So here's our agenda. Welcome and apologies. Nick and I have prepared a report based on a format that we've used in the past. Pat will be giving headline figures on finance. Then we'll talk about steering group, which needs a boost. We'll talk about our projects. And we hope this time to get some updates from various HGN members, especially from groups who are here. But some key questions that we'll be able to come to this evening as well when we get on to discussion. Sustainability of the organisation. Sustainability in the sense of doing what we're doing in a way that we can continue to do it, and we have enough people to do it. And we've got some questions to look at in the current context with other organisations, other focuses such as rivers, etc., such as the Herefordshire Climate and Nature Partnership. What's the role of HGN now? Can HGN afford to do big projects? We'll look at those. Are you, the members, getting enough of a voice? And are we doing the right sorts of things? So that's just some things to please bear in mind as we go through the agenda. Nick, shall I do this one as well, this slide? Happy to do that. Lovely. So our team, you met in the introduction there. So Rachel has been our admin support and events coordinator 1 day a week since spring 21. So that's 3 years now. And Fran joined late last year, and we've been able to make her, it was on a short-term contract originally. We've been able to keep her on for longer. And she's been doing additional admin support and taking the lead on the website, which is great. Gemma Monk-Hartley is coordinator for the Building Sense project, which is looking particularly at retrofit of our homes. And Claire is a member of the steering group, but has also been great collaboration coordinator. Now, normally we wouldn't have a steering group member in that role. Claire very kindly stepped into the role when there was a sudden breach. It was supposed to be temporary. It's been very, very long temporary, but Claire is now actually stepping down from that role, and indeed from the steering group, which is a shame. Anyway, the steering group. What do we do? Well, there's commissioning and managing, if you like, which is partly supporting the associates who we've just mentioned, making sure that the right priorities are set and that projects are running along all right. There's the oversight of our projects, website and marketing, events, GDPR and legal compliance, and Claire has been taking the lead on complying with setting our policies and complying with those. It's fundraising, finances handled partly by admin, but with oversight by our honorary treasurer, and setting future strategic direction. So that's what we're doing. And we are, as ever, seeking some new members for the steering group. We have lost 2 or 3 people since our last AGM, largely through pressure of other commitments. and we're about to lose Rob, who is standing down, and Claire, as I mentioned. So it does leave us really rather thin on the ground. Impact on communications. I'm sure everybody gets the weekly newsletter, which Rachel compiles. It comes out 5 o'clock every Friday, 5 minutes after Crackerjack. And quite a lot of the member organisations will send in their news for inclusion. We also send out the Great Collaboration newsletter, now Great Collaboration Herefordshire, and that goes out more or less monthly to over 400 people, 250 of which are in Herefordshire. You may be among them. Building sense. Oh, I've forgotten to fill that in. I'll ask Gemma if she can look it up. Sorry, Gemma, I forgot to ask you for that. I'll see if Gemma can dig that out and we'll tell you in a bit. And the Building Sense Professionals newsletter. Sorry, that's me being disorganised. That goes out more or less quarterly to, I think, about 100 professionals who work in the construction sector. Then we've got the website, and in fact, we've got some website issues we need to deal with quite promptly, that Richard is taking the lead on that. Richard Orbansky, our steering group member. Then we do members meetings. They're not face-to-face for a long time. We've done oodles of webinars, and we take part at local events. Is everybody okay if I just carry on at this sort of pace? Any thumbs ups? Any thumbs downs? A thumbs up from Nick. What else have we been doing? HGN as an umbrella is represented on the Climate and Nature Partnership Board by Gordon Coppock and myself. Gordon has been on the Marchers LEP Energy Group, and I think, Gordon, that has now ceased to be. But if it hasn't ceased to be, it's about to cease to be. Can you just...
That's right, yeah.
It ceased to be.
The present government that created the Marchers LEP has now decided to cancel the Marchers LEP, but there we go.
Okie dokie. Well, that's one job fewer for Gordon, who is always really busy, for better or worse. Nick is on the Herefordshire Local Nature Partnership, and Nick chairs meetings for the Herefordshire Food Partnership, and I've been taking part in some of the meetings as HGN is a member of the partnership and vice versa. And Nick is part of the Hereford Diocesan Zero Carbon Group. So they're not necessarily things that we do as HGN, but they're things that HGN steering group members are actively involved in. Now, Great Collaboration Project. I could ask Claire, if you're willing, Claire, to talk about this. What I'd like to do, though, is say that, and we will minute this, Claire has been doing an absolutely brilliant job on the Great Collaboration, now Great Collaboration Herefordshire. And so let's record our thanks to Claire for that. Claire, would you like to speak to this slide?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your kind words, Jackie. I think the main themes of what's been happening the last year are have been the transference of the website and the toolkit, which the Green Network developed with other partners to support parishes to take initiatives locally to address climate change, has been handed over successfully to another party, and they are really running with it. And that's fantastic, because the Green Network, we just don't have the capacity to build on what we started, but it was a great foundation. And it's been spread across the UK now, and I think we should be really proud of that and the work that went into that. And my predecessor, Beth, and Found Hope in particular, really put a lot of work into that in its early stages. since that was taking a lot of time with Jackie and myself, and since then we've been concentrating on Herefordshire and working on the basis that Herefordshire parishes particularly could do with networking more and benefiting from each other's learning. And so that's what's been happening recently. We've had networking events, we've had a carbon literacy course. I've been out doing workshops and giving talks, but what's really been positive in the this last year really is that a few of the parishes have really networked together as supporting each other. There's a few represented here, which is lovely, and I think that will go on, because unfortunately we don't have the funding to continue great collaboration in Herefordshire. But there is the kind of a central core of interest from parishes that hopefully will spread and that will generate more interest as they speak to their neighbour parishes and learn what's been happening for them. We've got lots of good practice examples to share between us, and that's already been happening.
Yeah, thanks ever so much, Claire. Yeah, so as Claire said, we don't have any specific funding. In fact, we haven't had any specific funding for great collaboration Herefordshire work for well over a year, over 18 months. And so we have, to some extent, sort of fudged it because we thought it was very important to be able to continue. We know we can certainly offer some kind of framework support to those communities and hope that they'll take it forward. It may be that an individual steps forward and says, I'll do it, I'll do what Claire was doing. Or it might be that there's another group or organization that can step into the breach. But it's running a project like this isn't traditionally something that Herefordshire Green Network has done, and it takes quite a lot of doing. So we can discuss that later on. Thanks, Claire. I can't change slides. Hang on a minute. There we go. Next one, building sense. I think many people will have come will have come across our other project, Building Sense. Thank you, I've managed to say that. Building Sense, Creating Comfort and Cutting Carbon, which we launched early in 2021. I'm afraid that was my bright idea, and didn't realise quite how much work that was going to turn into either. We were really fortunate that towards the end of our first year, we were able to get some funding from Herefordshire Council for 12 months that we sort of stretched a bit. We were then able to partner with a Marches-wide retrofit programme called Future Ready Homes. That's now going forward, and Gemma will be able to tell us a bit about Future Ready Homes in just a moment. Gemma joined us to work on the Building Sense project, and she's also the Herefordshire coordinator for Future Ready Homes within Herefordshire on behalf of HGN, so that's absolutely great. What we've done lots of is webinars, 25 I think so far, 12 of them in, oh it says 2003, please read that as 2023. And Gemma has done, as part of Future Ready Homes, 2 open homes sessions in September, October of 2022 and 23, which have had really super visitor numbers. That's people going to houses to see, what energy efficiency measures look like in practice. We've been to a number of events, we run our own events, and we ran a quite large one, February 2023, for professionals, focusing on training skills. And we've been doing those newsletters. Gemma, I think if you're there now, because I know you can't stay all that long anyway, this would be a good chance if you would do a bit more about Future Ready Homes, and maybe you've actually dug out those numbers of people who get the newsletters.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. So yeah, let's go back to those numbers first of all. Building Sense is going out to 783 people on the sort of regular Building Sense newsletter, and then our professionals, we've got 88 on there. So we've got good numbers, and we have massively grown the Building Sense mailing list, and a lot of that was down to the webinars that Jackie mentioned, and also Green Doors. That did give us a lot of new contacts, which was really fantastic to see. And because Future Ready Homes is continuing, they can both continue as well. So the programme is similar for the next 2 years in some ways as it was for the previous. There will be a number of webinars over the next couple of years on different topics, all to support householders who are looking to retrofit their homes to save money, cut carbon, and make their homes more comfortable. Yeah, we'll be continuing with those because they have been really, really well received. And not just at the time either. I mean, we get really good numbers sign up, 100 at a time will sign up. And then we're getting kind of 300s, 400s viewing them on webinar on YouTube after. So the webinar's been great, and we really
Yeah, Gemma, I think a record number of viewings so far is 1,200.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, 1,200. Right, I'm out of date, clearly. So yeah, definitely worthwhile keeping on with those. Green Doors is also going to continue. We really love doing Green Doors. It is growing each year. So that will be happening again. We will be looking for more homes to be taking part. Hopefully, we'll start to see those come through off the back of the work from Future Ready Homes the previous 2 years, where people had their whole house surveys. Hopefully they went ahead and did some work, which we know they did because we did research with them. So now it's over to me to try and get them to open their doors in October and to be our new hosts. Yeah, so that's going to be really interesting, and hopefully we'll get more people in attendance because it's a really good event for giving people inspiration and confidence to go ahead with retrofit, which is what we're all about. So that's good. We're going to be carrying on with engaging with installers. That's such an important area for retrofit. One of the biggest barriers to actually getting things done is knowing who to use, finding them, knowing which installers are actually recommended. There are unfortunately quite a few cowboys that have popped up as a result of the various funding schemes that are around, and that has not gone well for some people, and it's damaged people's confidence. So part of Future Ready Homes 2, we're creating an installer directory, local installer directory, and the names on there are only people that have been recommended to us. So households, homeowners out there that have done a retrofit, have been pleased with the work, they are making their suggestions and they're putting names forwards, and we're adding them to this directory. So that is available already in a very, very rough form, but the actual website version, searchable, all singing, all dancing, that should be up on the Future Ready Homes website. I'm going to tell you now, but don't hold me to it, end of June. So we've not announced anything else about that yet. Yeah, so aside from that, we'll still be continuing to offer advice, attending events. We're doing it slightly differently in terms of the surveys. So before we had a number of surveys that were freely available to anyone in Shropshire, Herefordshire and Powys. This time what we're doing, for a start, Powys isn't part of the area, that it's Telford and Wrekin instead. And what we're going to do is take either an archetype or a community focused approach. So rather than anyone receiving surveys, it will be people in a smaller area. It might be in a village, it might be in a town, and it might be, what we're aiming for is they're all in a certain type of property. So in Shropshire, for instance, it's going to be Victorian terraces, and focusing on a relatively small area within Shrewsbury, that there are lots of Victorian terraces. And the idea is that by honing in on a archetype and on a smaller locality, actually we can do much more thorough marketing, give more personalized support to more people, and make the most of the fact that they are going through the same experience because they've got the same property and they're living in the same area. How we're doing that in Herefordshire is still a little bit up in the air. That is in discussion, but hopefully that'll be finalised soon, and we'll get that going. But we will be giving advice to all through the webinars, through articles on the website. Future Ready Homes has a mailing list that goes out as well, and we're going to try and strengthen our relationships with other groups within counties, so that we can spread the messages further as well, so that more people are learning about retrofit.
Great, thank you so much, Gemma. That's super. And Gemma is never tired, everybody. It's brilliant. Except we know that you have to leave us now. So please, if you're in a community where you think there might be an appetite to potentially have a cluster of homes or homeowners working together for Future Ready Homes, do let us know. If you contact Rachel or the Building Sense email or Gemma's email, perhaps you type it into the chat, Gem, before you disappear. That would be great. And I should say as well that Gordon and I, through the Climate Nature Partnership Board Buildings subgroup, are also collaborating with Herefordshire Council on, whatever initiatives there are there. Not specifically as Building Sense, but nonetheless, that's going on too. Brilliant. Thank you, Gemma. See if I move on. There we go. Would you like to speak about the numbers in your financial report, please?
Yes, no problems. Hi, Pat Susha here, Treasurer. Not too much to report. The numbers speak for themselves, really. These are the income and expenditure statement in summary for the year to 31st of March 2024. As you can see, we had a certain amount of income from membership. About 85% that came from grants. That was from March's Energy Agency and Herefordshire Community Fund. So that gave us an income of about 20,500. Just over 20,500, and our expenditure was a bit more than that, not by much. We're not aiming to make a huge surplus or anything like that, but we certainly sort of want to sort of balance our costs. Our expenditure was 28,825, and that's sort of split across several cost headings, things like general running the organisation was about a third of that, and then things like things specific to the Great Collaboration, Building Sense, the website, that sort of thing. So the cost of running the organisation for the year. So at the end of the year, we had a slight deficit of just over £1,200. So the amount we have in the bank carried forward has gone down a bit. So at the end of March 2024, it was £9,285. Looking at the cash flow for the next year, that's fairly robust. Got a bit more income coming in the next few months, so we're okay. We're not making lots of money, but not losing lots of money either. We're what you would expect for a community organisation of our size, really. So, any questions? Let me know.
Great, thanks, Pat. And yeah, just to say, the Herefordshire Community Foundation, we've had a grant from them. It's in, I think, 4 stages over the year, isn't it, Pat? And that's essentially covering our admin costs, which is invaluable, and some of the overhead. And there's some income as well through the Future Ready Homes 2 scheme, which is I think in court, but it'll be in the, it's sort of going forward, so it's not showing up here as this is not a projection. Lovely, thank you very much, Pat. I'll move on. I'll attempt to move on. Voila. So I think we've essentially come to the end of the report. Nick, is there anything else that you would want to mention in terms of the chair's report?
But yeah, just, well, a couple of things. One is this is the sort of you always, with an annual general meeting, you start by looking back. You've all been incredibly quiet, but are there any questions to ask of the sort of work programme and Pat's Treasurer's report before we move on? And I'm happy if there aren't, but if there are any questions, now's the time to ask. I mean, we're not trustees and you're not sort of quizzing us, but it is so you get a sense of what HGN has been doing over the last 12 months.
I can stop sharing if it's easier to, if we've got some hands going up.
Yeah, I can't see any hands. And thanks, Gemma. Gemma's got to go. The other thing it was worth saying is, although we have been running these projects, we've also tried to sort out the structure of HGN to make it more project savvy, in that we applied to become a CIO, a charitable incorporated organization. We didn't get it. The reasons they turned us down, we had quite a discussion with them, and they have encouraged us to reapply. But I guess we want to get a sense from the membership as to whether it's worth doing that, because running these big projects is not something that HGN did historically. They've been successful, and we hope you think they have been successful, but they've also been quite, well, very time demanding. And if we hadn't had the quality of the sort of the staff that we've got, Rachel, Fran, Gemma and Claire, and Pat's really good input as a volunteer treasurer, we would have struggled enormously. And going forward, I think we've got to be able to sort of, you know, whatever the metaphor is, cut the garment to fit the cloth, or you know what I mean. Anyway, it's taken its toll, and yes, we've got some huge successes, and we're very proud of what we've been able to achieve. But in going forward, we really need to assess whether we can continue as we are, or whether we need to set up more of a structured organization, or revert back to what we were originally, which was essentially a collective of member organizations that met, and we facilitated the meeting. So that's part of the background to this. But just so you did know, we tried to apply for CIO status and didn't get it.
Yeah, and
it doesn't really matter, but Jackie and I are personally liable if anything goes wrong. But go on, Jackie.
We had a slide about that, and I'm ever so sorry. It's sort
that's
of
right.
It fell off. I don't know why what happened.
Yeah,
but
I mean, we had a long conversation with the Charity Commission, and they did encourage us to try, and we did base our application on a sister organisation in Shropshire. So we went and took legal advice and all the sort of things you're meant to do. So we were a bit surprised when they turned us down, but we could apply again, but we are sort of starting from scratch in that we would need to find new trustees and so on to put up. So that's also been part of the work programme of the last 12 months.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Nick. And Nick has been co-chair originally with Kate Gathercole, and then after that with me, having invited me to join him. I think for 4 years, Nick, and five. Okay, 5, and I think it's been me for 3, and so we're both coming towards a time when it's only healthy for the organization to, you know, do some moving on. Both of us, I think, have said that, you know, being in roles towards, say, the end of the year or what have you is doable, but it's not necessarily something that either of us can continue in the longer term, and probably not healthy as well for an organization. So yeah, we'd actually really like to hear from some of you about what you value from HGN. If you're one of the people who's been on the steering group in the past or currently and is standing down, what you've observed. If you're a member if you've been a member for a really long time and you've known HGN in different formats, we'd like to hear about that too, really. So I think I might stop the share so we can just see, here we are, see if we've got any thoughts. I see we've got some chat. I'll have a peep at that.
It's difficult to have a structured discussion, but fortunately, in a way, there are masses of us. So if you've got sort of views and comments, we did want to get a sense check from people, as to whether HGN is scratching where people want, are itching. Because although we've done these big projects and a lot of work has gone in, and to some extent a lot of success has gone in, whether that is sustainable in the longer term, the answer is yes, if we can get the funding and if we can get the right structure to support it. But we don't feel at the moment that it's sustainable with the steering group that we've got and the structure that we've got. But we did want to get some feedback from you as to whether, HGN may have done all these things in the background and you didn't have the faintest idea of what was going on anyway, in which case have we lost base touch with our base membership, as it were. So what has been of value to you, what would be of value going forward, and what's the appetite to try and sort of steer it? The other thing that is worth saying, and people might want to comment, is that the landscape has changed enormously since HGN sort of started, the old days of the Transition Alliance. There was hardly anything going on in terms of retrofitting then, and we helped set up things like H Energy and get the ball going. Now there is, at least retrofitting campaigns covering Herefordshire and Shropshire. Herefordshire Council did not have a Nature and Climate Partnership Board, which it does now. We link into the Herefordshire Local Nature Partnership. That at the moment is sort of forging alliances with Shropshire, Powys and the local authorities that are forming this nexus called Marches Forward. 4 local authorities sort of not merging at all, but signing a memorandum of understanding to say how can they relate better to government with a population of closer to 1 million people rather than the small local authorities we all are at the moment. So the political landscape is changing, the landscape in terms of retrofit and climate action is changing, but we're also conscious that on the ground there's still an awful lot that needs to be done and we need to accelerate change. So in that milieu, as it were, where do you see HGN and how might it support you, who call yourself mere members, but the members, which is why HGN existed in the first place?
Can I just say something?
Sorry, I can't see who's talking, but just shout, please.
Brian Harper from...
Hi, Brian. Yeah.
Yep. Because technically speaking, I'm about 500 yards in Worcestershire.
Right.
But I was born in Bromyard on a farm and all the rest of it. My brother lives at Stoke Lacey, and I look out of the window at the whole of South Herefordshire. For me, the best thing about Herefordshire Green Network is that it exists, and I would hate to see it disappear. At this side of the border, Worcestershire just hasn't got anything like what you've got in Herefordshire. And in my dealings around the country, in various communities and so on, HGN does shine out like a very unique beacon. And I remember the retrofit summit that you ran, Jackie, a year or so ago, how much expertise there was that came out of that. We do a lot of work down in Bristol and more potentially also with West Midlands Authority and so on. And I think what you actually managed to do in HGN stands up very well against what's going on in these large conurbations. So I would just encourage you to keep at it.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Brian. And I don't think we're thinking about ceasing HGN. It's just the format and how doable it is to keep doing the bigger projects, which inevitably are quite taxing. I've found the missing slide that somehow I jumped over. It has got some numbers. I'll share it in a minute if you like.
Any other feedback from people? And please be honest. I mean, if you haven't heard anything about HGN in the last 12 months, do let us know. Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Brian. I think it's an excellent resource for the county to have, because of all the work that goes on. The biggest problem is always communication and people not knowing what other people are doing, and is anything happening anywhere in the county? Is anybody trying to do anything? And it's pulling all those together. And I think I really value the newsletter every week. I mean, I don't go to everything that's on there, but it's great to be able to pick out, you know that something's happening in, I don't know, Kington or Hereford or something, which you might not know otherwise. So I think it's really valuable to share, and from a communications perspective. And the other thing I think that's been incredibly brilliant is the Building Centre project, just generally, is just a great resource for anything to do with energy for domestic consumers. I mean, I think the website's a good resource. The webinars have been fantastic. And if that's, I don't know if that's the big project that you're worried about continuing running, then whether it's run by Herefordshire Green Network or whether it needs to be taken on by somebody else, I don't know, the Climate and Nature Partnership or whatever, because I actually still don't really know what they do yet, but hopefully I'm going to find out soon. Yeah, I think that's a great resource to have. I said, in 25 webinars or whatever, they're great webinars as well. Yeah, they're realistic, good advice to, the right sort of level for domestic consumers to pick up. And it's got to get those sort of messages out to get over the fear factor of actually doing anything. So
yeah, thanks, Dave.
That's my general feeling about what Herefordshire Green Network has done really well, and hope it can continue to do so.
Thank you. I think it's partly looking at building sense, because inevitably in a small organisation, things depend on just, one or two people. If I'm candid, I think the Great Collaboration project, which involved setting up a big and quite sophisticated website, was, personal opinion, a step too far, probably for HGN. It involved management of a large amount of funding, a highly complex project, and it was a good project, it's fine that it exists, but it was always going to be a tricky one for us to deliver, and did take its toll on a number of people. Lynn, I see you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Jackie. Sorry, I'll just remove the various. Oh, now how do I lower my hand? Sorry, everybody. There we go. Lower the hand. I mean, to me, it is such an important central entity to collaborate and collate across the multiple groups, initiatives, networks, and so on that there are. And like other colleagues, I really value the newsletter, and looking at what has been achieved over recent years from when, for example, I first met Nick, is really heartening. It struck me, I think it was the one last week, I just thought, gosh, look at where we've come to, and that's amazing. And all the initiatives are brilliant. What I'm hearing is an issue about capacity, and it reminds me very much of another charity that I'm a director for, where there is no core central funding for its very important work, and so we have to attract funding from projects like the big projects you've had to bring money in, so that we can do the actually really important work as well. But I'm hearing that a couple of colleagues are feeling quite tired, and I think it's really valuable to have long-standing colleagues on the team, and that those colleagues have tremendous expertise. But what I'm hearing is we're looking at what the future format of HGN should be, and that's difficult in this. I mean, I wonder if we should have a coffee or something, and so we can have a chat about it. So I mean, one of the first ways forward is a hybrid of the two models that you mentioned. So going back to the roots of a loose collaboration, and a hybrid of some funding projects, but mindful of the limited capacity. Because when projects bring funding in, that should create capacity. We should be able to give some people some protected time and funded protected time and space, which it's sounding like we weren't able to maximize. Hope that's helpful, Jackie.
That's hugely helpful. Yes, let's have coffee. Yes, marvelous. Thank you. Thank you for that. No, well, what is really, really heartening is that so many people have mentioned the value of the newsletter. So bravo, Rachel, who somehow keeps that flowing. Holiday, no holiday. I don't think you've exactly done it from a mountaintop, but you've definitely done it from some obscure corners of Scotland at times, just to make sure that it keeps on coming out.
Sorry to interrupt, Jackie, but it is worth saying that it's very unusual to have a weekly newsletter. I mean, I work for South Shropshire Climate Action, and we have a monthly newsletter, and we couldn't do it without Rachel, which means we couldn't do it without somebody who's got some resource and paid to do it. I think it would be impossible to do a weekly newsletter just based on volunteers. So although it appears in the grand scheme of things to be quite a small thing, it in itself is a project. To do a newsletter of that quality on a weekly basis does require resources. So and you know, in going forward, and it's gratifying that people do value the newsletter, but we've got to sort of resource that for it to happen. I don't think it would happen on just volunteer time.
No, absolutely. No, I quite agree. I think this is the slide that I inadvertently skipped, so I apologize for that, but it's a good time to come back to it. So the newsletter currently has 952 subscribers, and that includes, or maybe it's additional to that, 90 Herefordshire-based groups, and that normally goes to one, potentially two people from that group for them to forward. So actually it has a really big reach. And we've currently got 5 fee-paying parish council members and another 14 fee-paying member organisations. We've been working really, really hard this year to encourage groups to sign up to be members and just pay that really quite small amount of money to help keep us going. And it's interesting how slight the response has been. We've done a lot of work. Fran's done a lot of work on the website. Fran, are you still there? Would you be able to just explain what we did in terms of the structure for that, by the way, to simplify the path?
Yeah, hi Jackie. Yeah, I mean, I just basically have tried to make it, as you say, simplify the kind of navigation of the website, specifically for potential members, and just kind of streamline the whole thing really, so that it's easier for people to find what they're looking for and not have to click through so many pages. Yeah, and just kind of accentuate the benefits to members really.
Yeah, thank you. And you say just, but in fact, historically, we've got a lot of pretty confusing information about membership on the website. And Fran went through all of that and has really, really streamlined it. So great work Fran, thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you.
But and so that will continue. But it's interesting that our income from membership continues actually to be quite low. We also looked at income by approaching various firms. Rob took the lead on that, didn't you, Rob? As sponsors, to see whether we could encourage people to become sponsors. I think it's just not a very good time. You know, it's a difficult climate to find commercial sponsors for us. And then organisationally, yes, we continue as an unincorporated association. Anyway, I'll stop that, Cheryl, but I just wanted to apologise for having jumped over it before. Great. Well, I don't think we mustn't press you all to say more, but it's for me very encouraging to have heard from Dave and Lynn and Brian and others about what we seem to be getting right. Is there anything additional that you think you would like to see? So, for instance, we've provisionally got a date in the diary for an HGN social on a Saturday afternoon in July. Is that the sort of thing that people like the idea of? More face-to-face meetings, or do online meetings suit quite well? Is there something else that we could be, those of you who represent a group or an organisation, is there more that we could be offering you? So please, if you've got any ideas, shout out now, or email us if you think about it afterwards. And I realise that we've got a pretty small representation of our membership here, so we're working you quite hard, but do appreciate that you're here.
I mean, let me ask the blunt question. Is there anyone who thinks that HGN has had its day? There's three people who said they valued aspects of it, but as I say, the landscape has changed significantly. There wasn't a climate and nature partnership board. There wasn't all this stuff taking place on retrofitting. I mean, we're helping to run Building Sense, but it's funded from elsewhere. So if you feel that, we'd be interested in knowing that as well. Gordon, I'm not saying you're going to answer that question, but you had.
Well, yes, it is related actually. I just thought I'd try and give an overview, because I've been with HGN since 2012, and I've been vice chair for far too many years equally. So I've done all the support for the events of H Energy over the 8 or more years that it was run, and really now we are in a different situation though, and it is a moot point whether or not, because there wasn't previously an organisation that focused on carbon reduction in Herefordshire. So we've become that since 2017, 2018. And equally, there's not enough focus on transport, for example, in Herefordshire. There are separate groups, Herefordshire Bus and Train Group and things like that, but there isn't sufficient still. And the Building Sense and the retrofit side was all lacking. So bringing that online has been a wonderful experience, and I'm very pleased to hear that it's been well received. But it is time to, I think, reflect whether or not the Hereford Climate and Nature Partnership is there, and we're maybe doing something in parallel with that. And I think at the moment it's okay the way it's set up, but maybe that is something. So we could be the communications and the networking and representation of various groups, smaller groups across the county, and feed that into the Hereford Climate and Nature Partnership, and that's how it has been, and that could continue to be that way. But I think that needs some very careful thought, because obviously maintaining this is not without a lot of effort, and that's what we're on about tonight. So I just wanted to bring you that 12-year view or more from how we've been trying to exist. We've evolved from the Hereford in transition to a much more stable and formal and more professional Hereford Green Network, which is great, but it isn't going to continue without many more people contributing to this steering group.
Thanks, Gordon.
Do people feel then that a way forward is maybe to broker a conversation with the Climate and Nature Partnership Board and see where I mean, we've got two reps in a way through Gordon and Jackie who sit on it, but we've never sat down with them and said, in terms of what Herefordshire needs, are we, you know, is this the best structure for the county? And might there be leeway on both sides to work out a future relationship? Gordon?
Yeah.
I've just thought of some ironic point, really, is that one of the reasons that we're on it is that we represent HGN. I mean, I also represented, from a Marches Let point of view, and from my energy links and all the stuff I did with regarding renewable energy. But, you know, if by terminating HGN, I'm not suggesting we do that at the moment, though, but just imagine we did, and then therefore we're not represented on the HCMP. Yes. That's counterintuitive. That's crazy. That doesn't make sense. So yes, and I'm thinking, you're saying, should we ask them? So I'm thinking, well, what would I, with my HCMP hat on, say? And I think I would say that HGN provides an important role in the county, as we've heard from others. So that's what I think I would say. But I don't necessarily want to be the one of a decreasing number of people providing that important role in the county. That's the point.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gordon. Well, it strikes me, well, it's always struck me that we've got two kind of functions. One is that umbrella, that actual networking, where HGN doesn't really do anything other than connect and act as a communication medium for the other groups that are out there in the county doing what they do, and in fact individuals. So you know, a kind of spider's web of that's connecting, but we also provide a platform for and a kind of launch pad for ideas. So anybody, any group or member could potentially come up and say, hey, why don't we start to do X? Which is exactly what happened with Building Sense. When I said to Kate, how would it be if, and designed a logo and sent it to Gordon, he said, that's good. And off we went. So that HGN can offer that launch pad. If anybody else says, oh, you know, what about something that doesn't exist yet and is not local, we can potentially be here for that. So
just one point to add to that, Jackie. I think, just to be clear, as a constituted body and all the 12 years experience that we have, we're normally very able to secure funding. When funding exists, we're exactly set up to secure that funding, and therefore we can be the medium by which other smaller groups can obtain funding. And that's not a trivial point at all. It's really, really difficult to get to that position where you're viable to receive funding. And it's just that the effort to make those funding applications and to find suitable places funding is an amazing amount of effort, and it becomes wearisome after year on year trying to do that. And to be honest, it's only the same as our poor council has to do. Most of what the council does that's creative is to do with the fact that the officers and the managers of those officers have looked ahead and are planning for the funding applications that they have to do endlessly, month after month, and only succeed in a very small proportion of them. But that's basically how our world is at the moment.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, anyway, I think it's been really, really useful to get some input from you all. And I think we'll finish by 8:15, if that's all right. But I know there are some people here who have said they'd be happy to say a bit about their own organisations. So I think that's Neil, isn't it, from MAD? Are you mad, Neil. I think you are. I also see that Dave Faulkner, who I'd invited to say something about Amley, I thought you weren't able to attend, but you might be able to say a few words about Amley Green Group. And Gordon, you and I could say a couple of words about Pomona Solar, just so we've got an idea of some of the, what's going on that amongst the HGN members. So Neil, could you just take a minute to tell us a bit about your project?
Yeah, thank you for the chance. Our project basically, as I mentioned briefly before, relates to the significance of getting messages across to children as far as climate change and biodiversity is concerned, because we feel that adult to adult pleading on a number of occasions will not make progress where the adults are pretty entrenched in their views. So we're looking for any opportunity where the children can be part of another project. In the 6 months or so that I've been doing this, I've been impressed by the number of different organisations that exist to help, although not always clear what each of those organisations actually does that's different from another one. But nevertheless, the fact that they're there has encouraged me, and it will help when I'm talking to schools and saying to them that individually, you're hugely busy people dealing with your everyday jobs as far as teaching kids are concerned, and your admin people are equally busy. But I'm hoping that Bromyard Mad Show, and the MAD doesn't stand for insanity, it stands for make a difference. So the Bromyard Mad Show is there to coordinate opportunities, particularly for some of the small primary schools, and interesting projects have been aired. Only the other day, I was approached by somebody who's the tree warden and looking to set up tree wardens in Bromyard. Bromyard and all the area around has never seen a tree warden. Well, I think their jobs, although organised by the local councils, can have a dimension that can relate to the children in the schools and in the village and in the parents for that matter. So that perhaps is one example. I know that I was at a meeting the other day where CPRE were represented, and the speaker there was talking about a project on hedges that were particularly related to schools as well. So I am interested, in summary, on any occasion when any of the projects that you're working on, if you think, there could be a child dimension to this, or wouldn't it be good if we could get to the parents? And I know that that's something I've heard in common, that most organisations and certainly the various council departments would love to be able to get to parents. Well, I can't promise that. What we are intending to do is to set up our own steering group, which will have one representative from each of the schools. And from my perspective, the condition of that representative is that they can get hold of the head, because I spend weeks trying to get hold of the heads for very good reason, that they're hugely busy on other things. But if the person I'm dealing with, who's on our committee, has got the head's ear, then that will be good, and that will mean that there are opportunities to get to a group of schools with ideas and projects and see if we can make something of them. So
great,
that's what I am.
Brilliant, thank you. That's super. Dave, what's going on in Amley?
So the Green Group in Amley is going on as it has been for the last 3 years. Still going strong. Got 60+ names on our distribution list in the parish, which is approximately 10%. Some of those might be out of the parish, but so anyway, you can lie with statistics. We got a sort of fairly active, what we call a hub group, that run things and organize things. We focus on, we spread quite thin because we just do it on whatever people are interested in, and there's a lot of interest in different areas. So we've got energy, biodiversity, and what I would call environmental protection. We run projects in some areas, and we do to try and engagement events. So we run probably every couple of months during the year, we put on a talk in the village hall. So for instance, on energy, we did a talk on thermal imaging at the start of the winter season to launch a thermal imaging project, which was a project. Talked about how much energy costs and what you can do to save energy. We started working with the parish council a bit closer now as an environmental working group, which has got 3 members of the council and 3 members of the green group on it. There's an energy project there to look at putting PV on the roof of the village hall. So that's an energy and biodiversity, quite a lot of interest there. That's the sort of thing that brings people in, get more bums on seats when you put in nature-based talks. So we've had talks on regenerative farming, farming in nature. Herefordshire Meadows gave us a talk. We've had Herefordshire Wildlife Trust talking about local wildlife sites. We've done talk and environmental protection. We've done work on plastics. We had a talk from some young children in Kinnersley who are absolute fantastic ambassadors about called Hidden Plastics. If anybody's interested, these kids, they were, I think, 14 and 13 when they gave us a talk, and they've been over to Canada to go talking about the plastics treaty and such like. So fantastic effort from them.
Dave, that sounds like oodles, but I'll stop you there.
Okay.
But it sounds really, really great. And I know that where Claire is, they've also got absolutely lots going on as well, but we won't be able to go around everybody. I would just like to say hello to Temi, who's a former steering group member and who joined part way through, but after the introductions. Good to see you. Good to see you again.
Jackie.
Hi. And just tell us quickly what you're doing then, because you missed the introductions.
Oh, at the moment, nothing exciting, at least not as exciting as what the previous 2 speakers have just spoken about. But hopefully at the next meeting, either coffee, I may have something exciting to share.
That's intriguing. Grand. Gordon, I had wondered whether to say something about Pomona Solar, which is, but I just wonder whether we should save that for another occasion, as we've kept everybody for quite a while. What do you think? Go on, 2 lines about Pomona Solar.
2 lines, yes, still working well. Installed 2015. It's supplying PV to local business industrial estate in Stoke Edith near Tarrington, and I'm also director of Lempster Solar, and there's another community solar on the primary school in Lempster as well, Sunshine Solar. So in terms of community owned renewable energy, there's quite a bit in the county, and with my big solar co-op hat, we've completed the project that's been 3 years in making on the food factory in Tenbury, Kerry Foods. And good news tonight with this past week, as hopefully you've heard elsewhere, we've just signed a major contract with Mid Counties Co-op on behalf of Big Solar Co-op for 39 sites of the Co-op group, and that's large scale roof on Mid Counties Co-op locations. So that's it. That'll do for now.
That's absolutely brilliant. Great, thank you. Nick, we've got some official sort of farewells and thank yous to say to the people who will be departing our steering group. Would you like to take the lead on that? Oh, hang on, Rachel's got her hand up. Rachel?
I think Chris from Applewood wanted just to say a few words about what they've been up to.
Oh, yeah, please do, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, I don't want to take over time anyway. Actually, first I wanted to say how grateful I am to HGN for their work over the years. I've also been tagging along, me and my partner Luby, and here we are at Applewood Permaculture Centre, having gone through also many versions of that. So really grateful, and yeah, keep going. I can see there's need for some strategic thinking which kind of isn't the place for tonight, but in itself is a big process in terms of meeting needs and funding and functions and all that sort of thing. So, we are a permaculture centre. Very briefly, we do training courses, permaculture courses. Luby, my partner, specialises in the social side. So she's got what she calls her cultural emergence courses. I'll just put the web links in the chat so you can see those. So Applewood courses is Applewood website. Cultural emergence is what Luby does, and part of that is the Mother Nature project. So looking at trying to look at all ages. And it was interesting, I was looking at the website on the what you mentioned about the Herefordshire nature and what was it called?
Oh, Climate and Nature Partnership.
Climate and Nature Partnership. There was actually nothing about people in terms of what are we looking at in people in terms of their relationship to nature and climate. So there were some great projects, wildflowers and energy and that sort of thing. But our biggest limit is people, and within people, it's our time, our money, our politics, our agendas, and so I think until we address that, we're always going to be tinkering around the edges of wildflowers and farming and energy and the real things we need to expand massively. So I think her work in cultural emergence, emerging cultures, cultural shifts, cultural change that sort of needs to happen. I just tinker along with a lot of land-based stuff, with like forest gardening and orchard management, and that's my passion. And I also work in Nepal with farming groups there, the Himalayan Permaculture Centre, so that's mainly about agroecology and embedding that in communities. So yeah, that's us. But there's the websites for further information.
Great, thank you, Chris, and
Thanks.
thanks for the wise words about people, because that's exactly it. I also had some other wise words from a talk long ago that you gave. You probably it wasn't in Herefordshire, where you said, "Don't just do something, stand there." I thought that was so good. It's a nice principle. Anyway, where were we?
The importance of observation. So learning context before you start decision making.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Haven't forgotten. Right, Nick, may I pass back to you?
You may indeed, yes. So there are votes of thanks that we really do want to give and we must give. And I think I want to start, if I may, with the team, Fran, Rachel, Gemma and Claire, because they do far more than we pay them to do, and they do it with good grace and almost always with a smile. And we could not exist without them. Also Pat, who we don't pay, but who has stepped up and keeps us on the straight and narrow in terms of us understanding what's happening to the money and being able to account for it. To my fellow steering group members, I think we owe a debt of gratitude to Jackie, because although we're down as co-chairs, Jackie puts in an enormous amount of work. And to those who are standing down, to Rob and Claire, Rob, who stepped up and approached businesses and did his best to try and get them to say HGN deserves sponsorship. And Claire, just a double dose of thanks, because not only for stepping up to the great collaboration on a temporary basis, but you've been there longer than most prime ministers we've had recently, but also your contribution to the steering group. Just taking the lead on the policies, keep us energized, and to the pair of you, all the very best for the future. We certainly hope you will keep in touch with us and that we'll sort of bump into you on numerous occasions. But also to all of you as members, you bothered to turn up tonight. I mean, I think most people would actually have gone out and done the gardening that they haven't been able to do for the last 4 months. So we're very grateful for that. and for all the contributions that you're making, and of course to the greater cause of trying to make Herefordshire a climate and nature friendly place. So a very good evening to all of you. Thanks very much for coming, and God bless.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Go well.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Cheerio.